Story begins probably the first time I ever used or picked up a drug was when I was 13 years old. Grew up on the west side of Cleveland. Average family, mother and father, older brother 3 years older than me. I was 13 years old, and the first substance I used was marijuana, which to me today is kind of comical because there's arguments today whether or not it's a gateway drug that leads to other substances, and I'm a firm believer that it does, and later in my story I guess you'll hear why. I don't know if what I used was laced with something or not, but all I remember is getting high and waking up 4 or so hours later behind an apartment building, staring straight up at the sky and not knowing how I got there. I know I wanted to do it again, and I guess that was the beginning of my journey. I grew up, I was a relatively intelligent kid. I was moved to a different set of schools in the Cleveland public school system called Major Works. They gave me an IQ test when I was younger, and it kind of made me feel different, awkward, but they put me in schools with kids that were similar to me. In 5th grade, I had to take French, so I was taking a different language early on, and I guess I was different. So, but in 6th grade, I had to take SATs, which most of you know is a test for college-bound students. My parents got the results back. They said I was one of the top 5% of the smartest kids in the country in my age, and my parents were proud. I just felt weird, but I guess I was always just an oddball kid. But I wanted to fit in, so I did things that I thought made me feel like I fit in. I hung around older kids in the neighborhood, and so I started trying other substances. I started drinking, smoking marijuana, tried acid. Started getting in a little bit of trouble, fights, but no real consequences. My brother was a little different than me. He didn't get good grades. I can say he wasn't smart, he just didn't excel in school. He started getting in trouble with the law, so my parents decided they would move from the west side of Cleveland to Parma. And that's when everything changed. Everything was different. People were different, kids were different, people talked different, dressed different. And I really didn't feel like I fit in. So I gravitated towards kids that were similar to me. They liked to party. And then somewhere along the line blurred with my use of drugs and alcohol, and I focused more towards that than school and than anything else. So I would go to school for homeroom, so they didn't call my parents, and I would leave school. And before I knew it, I was in 9th grade for the 2nd year. And that wasn't me. But I didn't care. I blamed the teachers, and for some reason my parents bought it. I was a straight A kid. I was introduced to crack, and now I had a new love of my life. And now I was robbing houses, I was stealing cars. I had 3 or 4 felony charges against me as a juvenile. I think I was 14 going on 15. And I was downtown at the Juvenile Justice Center in front of this magistrate. And she gave me a 3-year sentence to Ohio Department of Youth Services. And my mom started crying behind me, and she suspended the sentence. And my mom wanted to speak, and she let her. My mom said, "Oh, he's doing so good now. He just got a job at Best." There was a store called Best. And this judge looked at my mom and said, "Ma'am, do not let him work there. That is the worst thing that he could possibly do." She said, "No." And this judge knew. She knew. So, a couple days later, I started working at Best. And I was up in the stock room. I thought I had it all figured out. I would take these crock pots and put electronics in them. Have my friends come buy crock pots and send them down the conveyor. I thought I was getting away with everything, and that way I could sell the electronics and make money and get high and go get drunk. And, well, like 3 days into this brand new job I had, here come the police. And there's felony number, I think 4, maybe 5. And back then, the juvenile justice system, the way it worked is it was luck of the draw on the magistrate you got. Well, I happened to pick the same one. And I go back in front of this magistrate, and she's got this big smile on her face. And my mom couldn't look at her, and I couldn't look at her. She just laughed, and she knew. And I don't know why, but she suspended the sentence again. But I was on probation for a better part of my teen years, and it was all directly related to alcohol and drugs. Now I'm going on the 9th grade for the 3rd consecutive year, and my parents can't figure it out. I get suspended from school for 10 days with a pre-expulsion hearing for allegedly selling drugs in school. And my mom goes to battle for me. She says, you know, he's not selling drugs, he has no money. And they believed her again, and you know, I got away with another one. Well, now it's February of 1993, and the next day is President's Day, so we didn't have school. I told my mom I'm going out, and they said be home by 11:30. I had every intent to be home. So I left the house, I went to a party, I started drinking. And to this day, I don't know what happened. But I woke up the next day and I wasn't home. I was still at this house where this party was, and I had this feeling in my stomach, and I knew something was wrong. So I walked home. I figured my mom or my dad would be there, both. Nobody was home. There was a note on my dining room table that said, Jeff, we don't know if you're dead or alive. Call us. And something punched me right in the face, and I knew right then and there that I had an issue. So I called my mom at work, and I told her I needed help. It was February, I think 16th, 1993. Because she took me to see a psychologist that day, and this guy said, well, we'll send you to 12-step meetings. And I said, that ain't gonna help. He said, well, how about outpatient treatment? I said it wasn't gonna help. And then he suggested inpatient, and I agreed. So back then there was a treatment center on the east side at St. Luke's Hospital. And it was for adolescents. And they said I'd be in there for 7 days. And I was probably in there for close to 6 months. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I had to change everything about me. I had to change everything. They told me change everything but your name. And that's what I did. I went to 12-step meetings while I was there. I learned how to live. I had to write letters to my friends, telling them I couldn't be friends with them anymore. And it was hard. But I got through that. I got out of treatment. I started going to these meetings. They told me to get a sponsor to help me do what I had to do to work these 12 steps they were talking about. And I learned how to live a new life. Through sobriety, you know, I met a woman. I got married. I had a son. I started the job that I still work in today. But somewhere along the line, I was sober 7.5 years, and I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to people in recovery, and I thought I was cured. And I said, maybe it was just a drug problem. Maybe I could drink. And I didn't drink right away, but I did think about it, and thinking is our worst enemy. And I got in my own head, and it rolled around in my stupid mind for a long time, and I didn't tell anybody about it. I just thought about it. And then one day I decided I could drink again, and I did. And I didn't get hit by a bus. I didn't get struck by lightning. And nothing bad happened that first time, but the next 12 years were a living hell. Because I started drinking, and then all of a sudden I had this back pain, and I picked up a painkiller, and it made me feel something. I don't know what that something was, but it made me feel something. And then I thought in my head, man, if one made me feel that way, what would 2 do? So the next time I said, oh, my back hurts a little more, so I took 2. And And as that progressed, it was 3, then it was 4, then it got up to 30 something a day. And it was horrible. And the rat race was on because every minute of every day I thought about where I could get money to get some kind of feeling going on, pills, who I could take them from, my wife, somebody, money, how I could do whatever I could to get where I needed to be, and it was horrible. So in 2012, I'm trying to think how old my son was. I think he was 13 years old. He was suspended from school for cheating. You know, most parents would be pissed off that their kid was suspended from school. I'm gonna tell you something. If it wasn't for him being suspended, I'd be dead right now. So he's suspended from school, and it happened to be January 19th, 2012, and it happened to be my wife's birthday, so I screwed that up too. She hates her birthday today because of it. But I was home sitting in a chair. My son tried to wake me up, but he couldn't. So here's this 13-year-old boy freaking out at home. Called my wife at work. I can't wake up Daddy. I can't wake him up. My mother-in-law lived down the street. Everybody's freaking out. They can't wake me up. Finally, they woke me up just enough to get me to stand. Got me to the hospital because I was just about dead. So thank God that God was looking out for me, that my son was home, or I wouldn't have made it. I had my wife call my EAP rep at work, got me into Glen Bay. I was familiar with recovery from time ago, and I had still knew people that were in recovery. My best friend that we went through recovery before was back in the program as well. Called him. He came up to the hospital. They picked me up, took me to a meeting that night. And I got to tell you, it's been the best journey ever since.